No one in the building believed that night would carry any weight. Not the producers arranging the studio desk. Not the camera crew adjusting lighting levels. Not the league executives half watching from their phones while answering emails. On paper, it was routine. Another broadcast. Another crossover appearance. Bring the rookie on, let her speak for a few minutes, capture a few polite sound bites, and move on. Simple. Controlled. Forgettable. That was the plan. But by the end of those 2 hours, something felt off. Not loudly wrong. Quietly wrong. The kind of unease that settles in after the moment has already passed. Phones began buzzing. Group chats lit up. Executives leaned in and lowered their voices, as if someone had revealed information they were never supposed to hear. Without any announcement or intention, Caitlin Clark didn't look like a guest. She looked like the center of gravity. And that is exactly what unsettled them. Professional sports leagues survive on control. Control of timing, control of exposure, control of who becomes the face of the product. But when someone bypasses that system entirely, when a player refuses to wait her turn, the balance shifts. That is where this story truly begins.
Talked about how I think it was when Luka was back on the Mavericks, they in a way played, faster and more together, or the ball popped more. I think that's what it was. The ball moved more without Luka out there. So Clark referencing Luka with some of the stuff around her and Stephanie White, and the butting heads narratives from last year will be amusing. But, again, Caitlin Clark just playing basketball is important. And
the broadcast itself opened normally. Highlights rolled across the screen. Crowd noise hummed in the background. Analysts joked casually. Then the host said it, almost in passing. Joining us tonight, Caitlin Clark. No dramatic build-up. No special graphics. Just a sentence. But the moment the camera cut to her, the tone changed. You could feel it. The room tightened, as if everyone suddenly sat up straighter. Clark didn't look nervous. She didn't look wide-eyed or grateful for the invitation. She looked composed, almost unsettlingly composed, like someone who had been doing this for years. That alone broke expectations. Rookies are supposed to oversmile, speak quickly, sound impressed by the moment. She didn't. She leaned back, listened, and then began breaking down plays with precision, calling out defensive breakdowns before the replay confirmed them. At one point, she calmly corrected former NBA players on live television. No hesitation, no apology, just clarity. That was when viewers began to take notice, not because of hype, but because of authority.
Figure in basketball in the women's game right now, or the game in general. So we said, let's have a bigger conversation. And it's just so crazy that it feels like every other sport will just come out and say what it is besides the WNBA. The NBA is not scared to acknowledge that there's no more iconic figure in basketball. Not just the women's game, but possibly the game in general than Caitlin Clark. But we would not hear that in the WNBA space. We wouldn't hear that from WNBA media, but the NBA media and the NBA and the league itself is not scared to say it. Like we've seen it when Caitlin does golf events. It just seems like every league but her own is not scared to say the truth. But I do think
authority is dangerous in that setting because it cannot be assigned. It is claimed. Within minutes, social media shifted. Clips spread rapidly. Viewers rewound segments. Comments poured in, not about the game, but about her. She's sharper than half the analysts. How is she this comfortable? Why does it feel like she's running the show? Slowly, the broadcast stopped feeling like an NBA program with a guest appearance. It began to feel like a Caitlin Clark segment that everyone else happened to be part of. That is when control starts to slip. Back inside WNBA offices, phones lit up, texts flew. Are you watching this? Since when is she on NBC? Who approved this? No one had an answer, because no one had planned for it. They believed they had time to manage exposure, time to guide the narrative, time to keep everything safely inside league walls. NBC didn't wait. They didn't ask. They booked her. And just like that, one of the biggest stages in basketball media belonged to her, not the league.
We're going to see we're going to see anything too different in that regard, because I guess it's just the way things are in this league, and at least the people outside the league aren't being into like stupidly dumb like they used to be. Like, people in the media were scared to be pro Caitlin Clark 2 years ago, because you were deemed as being problematic if you didn't think Caitlin Clark would actually, in fact, shouldn't have been the number one overall pick, and all of this stuff. Like, if you weren't 100% anti Caitlin Clark, there was something wrong with you. At least the general media aren't necessarily like that anymore. The WNBA media absolutely are. Like, we've still, the phrase "the Fever are better without Caitlin Clark" is one that was used by commentators. Like, to be fair, at least no one's gone full Sheryl Swoopes. The fact Elle Duncan apologizing to Sheryl Swoopes is still one of the craziest things. So basically, Elle Duncan said that Sheryl Swoopes said Katie Lou Samuelson was more important to the Fever than Caitlin Clark, and that's what Elle Duncan reported that Sheryl Swoopes said. Sheryl Swoopes did not say that. Sheryl Swoopes in fact said that implied that Katie Lou Samuelson and Caitlin Clark were of equal importance to the Indiana Fever.
Then came the moment no one could dismiss. The broadcast cut live to Madison Square Garden. Bright lights, packed seats, history in every corner. The crowd wasn't chanting for the home team. They weren't chanting for NBA superstars. They were chanting one name: Caitlin, Caitlin, Caitlin. Inside Madison Square Garden, for a WNBA rookie. That isn't marketing. That isn't coincidence. That is takeover. And takeovers terrify people in charge. When fans attach themselves to a player instead of the logo, the organization loses leverage. The panic that followed was quiet but immediate. Ratings reports told the story clearly. Segments featuring Clark surged. Engagement spiked. Clips dominated feeds. Meanwhile, standard games remained flat and predictable. The contrast exposed an uncomfortable truth. She wasn't benefiting from the league's popularity. The league was benefiting from hers, retroactively.
Biggest star is saying she's confident a CBA will get done. Then there were some other topics hit up on the broadcast as well, including her wanting to play at Madison Square Garden. That is where she was broadcasting from, the Knicks and the Lakers. It is a great arena. I've spent a lot of time in the Garden.
Lakers and the Knicks taking center stage here for the 302nd overall meeting. And for the first time ever, we've got basketball night in America, the first Sunday in February. And we're joined by our special correspondent. Welcome to the team, Caitlin Clark. Yes.
Welcome. MSG for a Knicks game, so it's pretty cool.
I know, it's our first Knicks game, first time feeling the atmosphere. We got to get you to play on this court one day.
We have to talk to Matt Adam about that.
Can we make it mellow? Honestly, if there's someone
even if it's a preseason game, we got to get it done. I don't think the Liberty will want to move a game over here, but we'll play anybody. It'll be fun.
Yeah. How could you describe maybe the atmosphere your first time in it?
Well, I think as a player, like, this is kind of when you feel the atmosphere the most, is when you're out on the court warming up. So, I mean, there's just a different type of buzz. And obviously when LeBron comes to town, it's probably really different. But, Knicks fans are crazy, and I love it. I love people that are passionate about basketball. So it's pretty incredible.
So, Caitlin Clark saying she wants a Fever game at Madison Square Garden. That would be nice, right? That would be an event. But I think Fever fans just want to see Caitlin Clark in a game, period. They just want to see a WNBA season. They just want to see her back on.
Veterans noticed too. Players who had spent years grinding through empty arenas and modest paychecks watched a rookie command more national attention in a single night than they had received in a decade. That doesn't feel motivational. It feels destabilizing. The whispers started. They're pushing her too hard. This is manufactured. It's just hype. But beneath the surface, they understood. This wasn't hype. It was gravity. Media, sponsors, fans, and networks were all being pulled in the same direction. And gravity cannot be negotiated with. Then came the closed-door meeting. Lights dimmed. Phones silenced. Cathy Engelbert sat at the head of the table as numbers filled the screens. Clark's name everywhere, trending beyond their reach. Finally, someone said it out loud. What if she doesn't need us anymore? The room went silent. Because that question rewrites the power structure entirely.
next year. Like, yes, they are still mega superstars and they will still be able to do commercials and all of these things, but I wish that she was kind of with a dog agent like Clutch, somebody who just goes to war for their clients. And I feel like that would have been a perfect pairing. I also think that the Nike deal, like, there's no way Clutch would have just signed off on a $24 million 8-year deal with Nike for a player like Caitlin Clark. I feel like there's just no way. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if she signed with her agent early on, but can we start a petition to get her to Clutch? Because I feel like some things would be moved.
If she doesn't need the league, contracts lose weight. Rules lose leverage. Authority erodes. Independent stars do not ask permission. They choose networks. They choose platforms. They choose their own deals. And suddenly the league isn't leading. It's reacting. By the end of the week, the truth was impossible to ignore. This wasn't a debut. It wasn't a harmless crossover appearance. It was the moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a larger stage and never blinked. The most unsettling part was how effortless it looked, as if she had been preparing for this long before anyone else noticed. When history appears easy, it means the system failed to contain it. You cannot shrink someone the public has already elevated. You cannot put that spotlight back into a box. Once fans choose a star, they follow her anywhere. The question now isn't what just happened. It's what happens next. Because if that was only the first night, no one inside those offices is prepared for the second. And that is the fear they won't say out loud. The league isn't afraid of losing games. They're afraid of losing her. Because when the future stops waiting, control disappears.